March 2023. The model weights appear on 4chan. Meta had published Llama 6 weeks earlier, gated for researchers. Apply for access, prove institutional legitimacy, receive the weights. Someone leaked them. The community had a downloadable frontier-adjacent model and began building. Stanford shipped an instruction-tuned version within a week. This is the Llama story, the most consequential open-weight AI model family in history. Released accidentally first, then deliberately, then aggressively by a company that calls it open source and a community that says that is not quite right. May 2024, Reddit. We need to have a serious conversation about the Llama3 license. The license is not OSI approved. Meta restricts commercial use above 700 million monthly active users. Meta can revoke access. The weights are downloadable, but the freedom associated with them is conditional on Meta's terms. Open weight and open source are not the same thing. Llama3 is the clearest illustration in this series of why that distinction matters. Mark Zuckerberg founded FAIR Facebook AI Research in late 2013. Yann LeCun, one of the pioneers of deep learning, became the founding director. FAIR's stated mission was open science AI research for the benefit of the broader community. The open science culture at FAIR is the direct institutional background for Llama. The lab that produced these models was built on a commitment to publishing research openly, a commitment that predated by a decade the question of what it means to open source an actual AI model. On February 24, 2023, Meta published Llama, 4 model sizes from 7 billion to 65 billion parameters, gated for researchers and institutions. Within weeks, the weights were on 4chan. The community built immediately. Stanford's Alpaca instruction-tuned version shipped within a week. Meta had tried to control the release. The community made the lesson clear. Gated access wasn't working. Meta learned from it. Llama 2, released July 18, 2023, in partnership with Microsoft, was officially free for research and most commercial uses. The Microsoft partnership signaled that this was a platform strategy, not a research release. Meta was choosing openness as a competitive move against closed-source rivals whose models no one could download, modify, or deploy independently. April 17, 2024. Llama 3, 8 billion and 70 billion parameters, claimed state-of-the-art at size. July 22, 2024. Llama 3.1, including the 405 billion parameter model with a 128,000 token context window. Meta described it as the world's largest openly available foundation model. September 2024. Vision models in Llama 3.2. December 2024. Llama 3.3. April 2025. Llama 4, mixture of experts architecture. The license controversy is Llama 3's defining structural tension. The Meta Community license is not an OSI-approved open-source license. Commercial use above 700 million monthly active users requires a separate agreement with Meta. Derivative model names must include Llama in the name. The license can be modified, access can be revoked. The weights are downloadable, but the terms are Meta's. The Meta 2024 Reddit thread that raised this explicitly was not a technical complaint. It was a political one. The community using Llama had built infrastructure, tooling, and businesses on the assumption that open weight meant something closer to open source. The thread argued, with documentation, that Meta's use of the phrase open source was a contested framing at best. The hallucination rate on obscure topics was documented within days of the Llama 3 launch. April 25, 2024. Community members described it as having the most hallucinations of any model they had used on obscure subjects. April the 28th, Llama 3. Instruct 8B hallucinated even with correct prompt formatting. The 8 billion parameter model, which is the version most users run locally, disappoints on niche queries in a way that the marketing did not suggest. The over-refusal pattern arrived in parallel. Within days of launch, users were asking for uncensored variants. May 2024, a less wrong post documented that Llama 370B's refusal behavior was strong enough that an agentic pipeline required refusal vector ablation, surgical removal of the part of the model responsible for saying no, before it could function usefully in automated workflows. April 2025, Hacker News. Meta accused of using an experimental chat version optimized for LM Arena benchmarks, rather than the version users can actually download. The community concern: the benchmark scores used to claim frontier performance may not represent the model that is distributed. Llama3 in 2026 has 3 practical deployment tiers. The 8 billion parameter model runs on consumer hardware with manageable VRAM requirements under quantization. It is fast, capable enough for most everyday tasks, and limited on complex reasoning. This is the version most users actually run locally. The 70 billion parameter model requires high-end consumer or prosumer hardware at full precision. Quantized versions run on gaming GPUs with sufficient VRAM. It is significantly more capable than the 8 billion on reasoning and complex tasks, and it is the tier where Llama most consistently competes with the best available models. The 405 billion parameter model requires multi-GPU or data center infrastructure and is not practical for local deployment on consumer hardware. It is the tier where Meta's frontier-adjacent capability claim rests, and it is the tier available to most users only through API access or well-resourced teams. The jump from 8,000 tokens in Llama3 to 128,000 tokens in Llama 3.1 was the most practically significant upgrade in the family. Document analysis, long-form conversation, and large code bases moved from infeasible to feasible. Llama 3.1 replaced the original Llama 3 as the default community recommendation for most use cases. The fine-tuning ecosystem is Llama's competitive moat. Hugging Face published comprehensive training guides immediately after launch, covering LoRa, QLoRa, and ORPO. Thousands of domain-specific fine-tuned variants exist for medical, legal, coding, multilingual, and uncensored use cases. GGUF quantization formats made local deployment accessible on hardware that would otherwise be insufficient. Even when other models benchmark better in specific evaluations, Llama 3 often wins for fine-tuning because the tooling and community knowledge are unmatched. Llama 3 is the correct choice for builders who need the deepest open-weight fine-tuning ecosystem available, for local AI users who want access to a broad range of community-produced variants, and for enterprise teams that want fine-tuning control over a model with established tooling and community support. The Llama 1 leak in March 2023 is the event that gave the open-weight AI movement real momentum. The community proved that with a capable base model, the ecosystem could move extraordinarily fast. Meta formalized what the leak had started. Every subsequent open-weight release in this series exists partly because Llama demonstrated that open weights were viable, popular, and strategically valuable for the lab releasing them. The license question is not a technical limitation. It is a governance question that matters most to users at scale and to users who value software freedom in the GNU sense. For a developer running Llama locally on their own hardware for personal or small team use, the license restrictions are unlikely to be the practical constraint. For a company building a product that might reach 700 million monthly active users, the terms become material. For a researcher or developer who believes that open source means freedom in the OSI sense, Llama does not meet that standard. The license question is not a technical limitation. It is a governance question that matters most to users at scale and to users who value software freedom. For a developer running Llama locally for personal or small team use, the license restrictions are unlikely to be the practical constraint. For a company whose product might reach 700 million monthly users, the terms become material. For a researcher who believes open source means freedom in the OSI sense, Llama does not meet that standard. Meta controls Llama, the weights are downloadable, the ecosystem is enormous. The tooling is the best available for open-weight fine-tuning. None of that changes who owns the model or under what conditions that ownership might become relevant. Llama 3 is the most important open-weight model in the world. It is not the most open one.